1. Introduction. Who was C.S. Lewis? C.S. Lewis was one of the most famous writers of the 20th century. He is best known for his classic children's books, the Chronicles of Narnia, which have been loved by millions of readers around the world. But Lewis was much more than just a storyteller. He was also a brilliant scholar, a respected professor at Oxford University, and a Christian thinker whose books about faith are still read by people everywhere. During his lifetime, Lewis wrote novels, essays, and books about religion and philosophy. His ability to explain complex ideas in simple words made him popular among students and everyday readers alike. What makes C.S. Lewis's story so inspiring is that he experienced many challenges in life: war, loss, doubt, and pain. But he never stopped believing in the power of imagination, hope, and faith. In this video, we'll learn about his childhood, his years at Oxford, his journey from atheism to Christianity, his famous stories, and what his life can teach us today. Let's discover the world of C.S. Lewis, a man who helped both children and adults see the world with fresh eyes. 2. Early life and family. C.S. Lewis was born on November 29, 1898, in Belfast, Northern Ireland. His full name was Clive Staples Lewis, but his friends and family always called him Jack. Jack grew up in a warm but sometimes lonely home. His father, Albert Lewis, was a lawyer, and his mother, Flora, was a highly educated woman who loved books and poetry. The Lewis house was full of books. Jack and his older brother, Warren, spent hours reading stories, drawing maps, and inventing magical worlds together. They created imaginary lands that later inspired Jack's stories about Narnia. Sadly, when Jack was only 9 years old, his mother died of cancer. This was a terrible loss for him and his brother. After her death, the happy family life he knew changed forever. His father became distant and strict, and Jack was sent away to boarding school in England. This was the beginning of a long journey, filled with challenges, but also with discovery and growth. His early love for books and fantasy stories stayed with him for the rest of his life. It gave him comfort during difficult times and became the seed for his future as a great writer. 3. School years and love for stories. After his mother's death, young Jack Lewis was sent to several boarding schools in England. Some of these schools were strict and unpleasant, and he often felt lonely and out of place. But during these years, his love for reading only grew stronger. Books became his best friends. He read everything he could find, especially stories about myths, legends, and ancient heroes. He was fascinated by Norse mythology, Greek legends, and fairy tales. These old stories filled his mind with images of magical lands, brave warriors, and talking animals. When he was a teenager, Jack discovered the works of famous writers, like George MacDonald, who wrote fantasy stories that showed him how imagination and faith could go together. At the age of 16, Jack got a private tutor named William Kirkpatrick, who prepared him for university. Kirkpatrick was a tough teacher who taught him to think logically, argue clearly, and love learning for its own sake. These years shaped Lewis's mind and gave him the skills he would use as a writer, teacher, and speaker for the rest of his life. Even though he was shy and sometimes lonely, C.S. Lewis always found comfort and adventure in the world of stories, a gift he would later share with millions of readers. 4. World War I and personal struggles. When C.S. Lewis turned 19, World War I was already raging in Europe. Like many young men of his generation, he joined the British Army and was sent to the front lines in France. The war was a terrible experience for him. He saw many of his friends killed in battle, and he himself was badly wounded by shrapnel during a fight. These years left him with physical and emotional scars. After the war, Lewis found it hard to believe that life had any meaning. He struggled with deep sadness and began to see the world as cold and empty. Although he had grown up in a religious home, during this time he became an atheist. He felt that there could not be a loving God in a world full of pain and suffering. However, he never stopped thinking deeply about life. His experiences in the trenches made him ask big questions about good and evil, courage and fear, life and death. When he returned to Oxford University after the war, these questions stayed with him. They would later become an important part of his books, where he explored how people can find hope even in the darkest times. The war years were a period of loss and doubt for C.S. Lewis, but they also shaped his mind and spirit in a way that would make his future stories so powerful. 5. Academic life at Oxford. After World War I, C.S. Lewis returned to Oxford University, where he completed his studies in English literature, philosophy, and classics. He loved the atmosphere of Oxford, its old buildings, libraries, and long conversations with other scholars. Lewis was an excellent student and soon became a respected teacher and professor. He worked at Magdalen College, Oxford, where he taught English language and literature for almost 30 years. During these years, Lewis made many friends who shared his love for books, stories, and deep discussions. One of his closest friends was J.R.R. Tolkien, the author of The Lord of the Rings. Together, they were part of a group called the Inklings, a small circle of writers and thinkers who met regularly in pubs and rooms at Oxford to share their ideas and stories. They read their new books to each other, gave advice, and sometimes debated for hours. Oxford gave Lewis the perfect place to grow as a writer and thinker. He loved teaching, but he also found time to write books, essays, and radio talks. His time at Oxford helped him discover how to connect deep ideas about life and faith with stories that people of all ages could enjoy and understand. 6. Becoming a Christian. For many years, C.S. Lewis was a strong atheist. He found it hard to believe in God, especially after all the pain he had seen during World War I. But his friends at Oxford, especially J.R.R. Tolkien, challenged his way of thinking. They spent many long evenings talking about life, good and evil, and the idea that stories and myths can carry deep truths. Tolkien helped Lewis see that faith in God didn't mean giving up reason or imagination. Instead, it could make both stronger. Slowly, Lewis began to feel that maybe he had been wrong about life being meaningless. He once described himself as the most reluctant convert in all England, because he didn't want to believe at first. But finally, he felt he had no choice. In 1931, during a long walk with Tolkien and another friend, Lewis realized that he did believe in Jesus Christ. This moment changed his life forever. After that, he became one of the most famous Christian writers of his time. He started to write books and give radio talks to explain faith in a simple and logical way that anyone could understand. His journey from atheism to Christianity inspired millions of people and shaped many of the themes in his most beloved stories, like the Chronicles of Narnia. 7. Writing the Chronicles of Narnia. In the late 1940s, C.S. Lewis had an idea that would make him famous around the world. He wanted to write a story for children, a story full of magic, adventure, and deep meaning. This idea became the Chronicles of Narnia, a series of 7 books that tell the adventures of children who discover a secret world behind a wardrobe. In Narnia, animals talk, trees come alive, and good battles against evil in epic ways. At the heart of the story is Aslan, a great lion who represents hope, courage, and sacrifice. Lewis used symbols and characters to share Christian ideas in a way that was simple and beautiful, without preaching directly. When The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was published in 1950, many readers fell in love with the magical world he created. Children and adults alike were touched by the bravery of the characters and the message that good always wins over evil. Lewis wrote 6 more books in the series, and together they have sold millions of copies worldwide. Today, Narnia is one of the most popular fantasy worlds ever written, translated into more than 40 languages, and adapted into films, plays, and TV shows. For Lewis, Narnia was a way to combine his deep faith, rich imagination, and love for storytelling. It remains his most beloved gift to readers of all ages. 8. Other books and ideas. Although the Chronicles of Narnia is C.S. Lewis's most famous work, he also wrote many other books that continue to inspire people today. One of his best-known nonfiction books is Mere Christianity, based on a series of radio talks he gave during World War II. In it, Lewis explained the basics of the Christian faith in a clear and simple way, using logic and everyday examples. Another popular book is The Screwtape Letters, a clever story where a senior demon, Screwtape, teaches his nephew how to tempt humans. Through humor and irony, Lewis shows how people struggle with good and evil in daily life. Lewis also wrote books about pain, love, and miracles. In The Problem of Pain, he tried to answer why suffering exists if God is good. His books were special because they mixed deep ideas with language that ordinary people could understand. Many people said that reading Lewis felt like listening to a wise friend explain life's big questions. Besides writing, Lewis often spoke at churches, universities, and on the radio. He was never afraid to share his beliefs, but he always did so with respect and kindness. Through all his writings, C.S. Lewis encouraged people to ask questions, use their imagination, and see life as a great adventure, filled with meaning and hope. 9. Personal life and love story. While C.S. Lewis became well known for his books and lectures, his personal life was quiet and simple for many years. He lived in a house near Oxford called the Kills, together with his older brother, Warren, who was one of his closest friends. Lewis never thought he would marry, but later in life, something unexpected happened. He met Joy Davidman, an American writer, who had read his books and written letters to him. Their friendship grew quickly. Joy was smart, funny, and shared Lewis's love for books and ideas. They fell in love and got married when Lewis was in his late 50s. For him, it was a new and joyful chapter in life. Sadly, their time together was short. Joy became seriously ill with cancer, only a few years after they married. Lewis cared for her with deep love and stayed by her side until she died in 1960. He was devastated by her death and wrote about his pain in his book A Grief Observed, which shows his honest struggle with loss and faith. This part of Lewis's life reminds us that even people who inspire millions can feel deep sorrow and doubt. Yet through his words, he also showed that love and hope can stay alive, even when life is hard. 10. Legacy. What we can learn from C.S. Lewis. Today, more than 60 years after his death, C.S. Lewis remains one of the most beloved authors for both children and adults around the world. Millions still read the Chronicles of Narnia, finding hope, courage, and imagination in its pages. His other books, like Mere Christianity and the Screwtape Letters, continue to help people explore questions of faith, doubt, and life's meaning. One reason people admire Lewis so much is that he knew how to combine reason and imagination. He believed that logic and stories together can help us see deeper truths about ourselves and the world. His life also shows that doubt and faith can live side by side. He was never afraid to ask hard questions, and he taught that it is okay to wrestle with our beliefs. Lewis's message is simple yet powerful. Stories can open our minds, and hope can help us face life's struggles. Today, his books have been translated into many languages and turned into movies and plays, bringing his magical worlds to new generations. C.S. Lewis reminds us that even in a world full of darkness, there is always a door to another world, one filled with light, wonder, and the promise that good will win. Thank you for listening to the story of C.S. Lewis. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real stories in simple English. Keep imagining, keep reading, and keep believing that our stories can change the world.